Now, before I get into this reveal, let me say this. When I wrote the review for Harmony of Dissonance, uploaded the review for Harmony of Dissonance. Yes, I knew that I'm doing this out of order. Circle of Moon came out first, then Harmony of Dissonance, then Arrive of Sorrow, and then they presumed to beat this Symphony of the Night style gameplay into the ground. Well, take it for what it is. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at the first Game Boy Advance Symphony of the Night style game in the form of Castlevania Circle of Moon. Circle of Moon has a little bit more of an interesting history than Harmony of Dissonance. It was developed by a subsidiary of Konami based out of Kobe and published by Konami in 2001 for the Game Boy Advance. Who is Konami Kobe, you asked? Well, they didn't really do a lot of games before being consolidated with other teams. Some other games they developed include such gems as Castlevania 64, Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, Konami Crazy Racers for Game Boy Advance, and Poppin' Music Game Boy Color Disney Tunes, which Poppin' Music Game Boy Color, I believe, was Japan only. Yeah, this is not the most fulfilling game developer history that I've ever done. You know, it's not the most interesting out of them all, but hey, at least the asshats who did those crappy Castlevania games on the N64 has a name. Not to mention, this game, Castlevania Circle of Moon, and Konami Crazy Racers, are two of their more forgotten gems. You know, so they didn't do, you know, just tons and tons of garbage, but they did enough shit for them to be, you know, you look at it, it's like, yeah, I get why they were consolidated. Anyway, Castlevania Circle of Moon is set in its own time period, and all the plot amounts to is that you play as Nathan Graves, a vampire hunter looking to kill Dracula who has been resurrected. It's your job to go off, kill him, and save your father. There's enough plot to give him death, but it's not Shakespeare. The graphics for its time are incredible. Pretty much you can say the same things I said in my Harmony of Dissonance review as in this game. The only real difference is that the frame rate can get really choppy at times. Certain boss fights or abilities will slow the game to a crawl. This is a problem when you later in the game where timing is of the essence, so you can dodge attacks that will absolutely not break you. Aside from that, there's really no difference in the art design between the two. It still looks solid, has menacing enemies, and overall looks impressive for a 2001 Game Boy Advance game. The audio is par for the course for the series. It has some remixes of some older tracks from the series, which is nice to see. All the other music in the game is pretty mediocre for a series. It does its job fairly well. It's creepy, it's atmospheric, but lacks in comparison to other games in the series. But if you compare it to like a typical Game Boy Advance game, you know, the music's very solid in general. Gameplay has its flaws. It's a decent Symphony of the Night style Castlevania game, but it's starting to show its age. The equipment system is back. You have 3 armor pieces with no item shop or currency. I like it because you really have to think on the fly on what you pick up. Healing items seem to be few and far between or virtually useless when you do get them. Overall, it adds more of a challenge element to the game instead of you stockpiling potions like in most other games like Symphony of the Night or even the Shaman King knockoff that pretty much ripped off the game. Your main method of spells is the DDS card system. Certain enemies will drop cards and have different effects. One might give you an improvement in stats, spawn an energy barrier, or give you a new kind of whip when used. There is also a second kind that will give you a different element to each ability. One might turn your weapon to a rose whip, while another gives you extension to your reach. This makes you think on the fly on what spell to use in certain situations. It controls like any other Castlevania game. Movement is slower than most and feels somewhat stiff. This wouldn't be so bad if the game wasn't so big. because it's so big it tends to seem like it just drags on at times. Not to say it's bad, it just seems to drag on at times. Probably the biggest make or break issue element is the difficulty. This is one hard game to finish on the default difficulty. It would only be topped by Ecclesia as far as this style of Castlevania game is concerned, in my opinion. The game tries to replicate some of the difficulty elements of older games that put them into a Symphony of the Night style game. Enemies are tough, attacks have a big area of effect, and bosses are mass murdering machines. If you don't remember their patterns, you are going to die a lot. The best part for me is that the majority of it, grinding will not help. This is a game that requires more skill than grinding to brute force your way to the finish. This will be a make or break element for some, as the added element will make getting lost when it happens even worse, because not only are you got no sense of where to go, you have to deal with these guys that if you don't deal with them effectively and efficiently, they will immediately just cut your head right off without saying, "Thanks for the head, buddy." Overall, Circle of the Moon is the weakest of the 3 Castlevania games designed for GBA. It really has shown its age more so in the controls, graphics, and frame rate. It's still a rock-solid game that's worth picking up for anyone who's a fan of the action-adventure platform-style games. It's not the best this genre has to offer, but it's still worth checking out. And again, it's been re-released on Nintendo's eShop for about between I think $7 and $10, depending on what region it's released in. It might be cheaper in the US than it is in Canada. I think it's about $7.99 Canadian. Bottom line, just because, you know, it's starting to show its age doesn't mean it's still not a very solid and very viable Symphony of the Night or Metroidvania style game. I would definitely give this an 8 out of 10, with more along the lines of Harmony of Dissonance getting like an 8.2 than Castlevania Circle of the Moon's just flat 8, where I just feel rock solid at 8.